There are moments in life when the pain does not come from fist storms or enemies standing in front of you. Sometimes the deepest pain comes from words. Words from people you trusted. Words from people you loved. Words that replay in your mind late at night when nobody else can hear the battle happening inside you. Some people smile during the day while silently bleeding in their soul because somebody spoke death over their confidence, their future, and their spirit. You can be strong on the outside and shattered on the inside. You can pray, work hard, help others, and still feel weak because of what people keep saying to you. Some of you have carried insults for years. Somebody told you that you would never succeed. Somebody called you useless. Somebody mocked your dreams. Somebody made you feel small, unwanted, and forgotten. The wound may not be visible, but the pain is real. But hear this clearly today. God never intended for the voice of broken people to become the definition of your identity. People may speak from anger. People may speak from jealousy. People may speak from their own pain and insecurity, but God speaks from truth. And when God speaks over your life, his voice is greater than every insult, every rejection, and every cruel sentence spoken against you. There are people listening right now who are tired emotionally. You smile in front of others, but privately you feel drained. You feel weak because words have become chains around your heart. Every criticism echoes in your spirit. Every rejection feels heavier than before. You pray, but the pain still lingers. You worship, but the tears still come. And sometimes you wonder, God, why do words affect me so deeply? Because you are human, because hearts can bruise, because even strong people become tired when they are constantly torn down. But weakness does not scare God. In fact, some of the greatest moments of strength begin when a person finally admits, Lord, I cannot carry this pain alone. One anymore. God does his deepest work in honest hearts, not perfect hearts, honest hearts. The world tells you to hide weakness. God tells you to bring weakness to him. When you are weak, God becomes your defender. When you are exhausted, God becomes your peace. When people misunderstand you, God still knows the truth about you. Others may judge your scars, but God understands the battles that created them. Some people broke you with words because they did not recognize your value. But lack of recognition from people does not cancel the purpose of God over your life. Diamonds are still valuable even when buried under dirt. Gold is still gold even when hidden in darkness. And you still matter even if people fail to treat you with love and respect. Do not build your identity on human approval. Human opinions change like the wind. One day people praise you, the next day they criticize you. If your confidence depends on people, your peace will always be unstable. But when your identity is rooted in God, you become steady even in difficult seasons. There will always be voices trying to discourage you. Voices saying you are too weak, too broken, too late, too damaged. But those voices are not greater than the voice of God. God says you are loved. God says you are chosen. God says you are not abandoned. God says your pain is not the end of your story. Somebody listening today feels emotionally exhausted because they have spent years trying to prove themselves to people who were never determined to understand them. Stop chasing validation from those committed to misunderstanding you. Not everybody will celebrate your journey. Not everybody will understand your heart. And that is okay. You do not need the approval of everybody to walk in the calling God placed on your life. Sometimes God allows painful words to push you closer to him. The pain teaches you where true healing comes from. The rejection teaches you to depend on heaven instead of applause from people. And in those lonely moments, God begins rebuilding the parts of you that life tried to destroy. You may be weak today, but weakness is not permanent. Pain is not permanent. Tears are not permanent. God is still working even in your brokenness. And one day the same person who cried because of hurtful words will stand stronger, wiser, and closer to God than ever before. The wounds that almost destroyed you will become proof that God carried you through the darkest moments of your life. So do not give up now. Pray even while hurting. Trust even while weak. Stand even while shaking, because God is near to the brokenhearted and he has not forgotten you. The voices of people may have wounded your spirit, but they do not have the final word over your destiny. God does. And when God begins healing your heart, no insult from the past will be powerful enough to stop the future he has prepared for you. Some of the deepest pain in life does not come from physical battles. It comes from word. Words can enter a person's heart and stay there for years. A scar on the body may heal with time, but wounds created by cruel words can quietly live inside someone's spirit long after the moment has passed. There are people walking around every day carrying invisible damage because somebody spoke carelessly, angrily, or harshly into their life. Some were broken by words spoken in childhood. A parent said, "You will never become anything." A teacher made them feel stupid in front of others. Friends mocked their appearance, their dreams, or their weaknesses. Others were wounded by betrayal from someone they trusted deeply. The voice of rejection became louder than the voice of hope. And over time, those painful words became chains around their confidence. The dangerous thing about hurtful words is that they repeat themselves in the mind. A person may hear one insult one time, but the memory keeps replaying it again and again. Years later, they still hear those voices saying, "You are not good enough. You are weak. Nobody cares about you." And slowly those words begin shaping how they see themselves. That is why words are powerful. Words can build a person up, but they can also tear a soul apart. One sentence can give someone hope to keep living, while another sentence can push someone deeper into despair. Some people smile in public while secretly fighting emotional battles created by the words spoken against them. There are individuals who look strong on the outside but feel shattered internally because they have spent years absorbing criticism, rejection, and negativity. They learned how to hide their pain behind laughter, behind work, behind silence. But deep inside, they are tired. They are exhausted from carrying emotional wounds nobody else understands. Sometimes the people causing the greatest pain do not even realize the damage they are doing. Angry words spoken during arguments can remain in someone's heart for decades. Harsh criticism repeated constantly. TLY can slowly destroy confidence. Sarcasm can become poison when used to humiliate others. And when people are already struggling emotionally, hurtful words become even heavier. The enemy often uses words as weapons because he understands how powerful they are. If he cannot stop your purpose directly, he will try to weaken your spirit through discouragement. He will send voices into your life that constantly remind you of your failures instead of your potential. He wants you to believe that because people rejected you, God has rejected you too. But that is a lie. Human words do not have the authority to cancel God's purpose over your life. People may misunderstand you, but God understands you completely. Others may judge you based on your weakest moments, but God sees the full story. People speak from emotion, pride, insecurity, or anger. God speaks from truth. Many people today are emotionally bleeding because they allowed the opinions of others to become louder than the promises of God. They have become prisoners of criticism. Every insult weakens them. Every rejection crushes them a little more. They constantly seek approval because they are trying to heal wounds created by negative words. But no amount of human approval can heal a soul that has forgotten its value in God. You cannot spend your life depending on people to define your worth. People are imperfect. Their opinions change constantly. One day they celebrate you, the next day they criticize you. If your identity depends on human validation, your peace will always remain unstable. There are moments when you must stop listening to every negative voice around you and start remembering what God says about you. God did not create you to live under the control of fear, shame, and emotional pain. He created you with purpose. He created you with value. He created you with strength, even if you feel weak right now. The pain caused by words is real, but healing is also real. God can restore confidence, destroyed by years of criticism. He can heal the broken places hidden deep inside your heart. He can silence the lies spoken over your life, and he can teach you how to stand strong even when others try to tear you down. Some people hurt others because they are wounded themselves. Broken people often speak broken words, but you must not allow someone else's pain to become your identity. What they said about you does not determine your future. There will always be voices trying to discourage you, voices saying you are not enough, not worthy, not capable. But you must decide which voice matters most: the voice of pain or the voice of God, the voice of fear or the voice of truth. And even if words have broken your heart before, God is still able to rebuild the parts of you that life tried to destroy. There are tears people never see. There is pain hidden behind smiles, worship, conversations, and daily routines. Many people have mastered the art of pretending to be okay while silently wringing emotional burdens that are crushing their spirit. But even when nobody else notices the struggle, God sees every hidden tear. He sees the pain buried deep inside the heart. He sees the sleepless nights, the silent prayers, the moments when someone feels emotionally exhausted and completely alone. People often judge what they can see on the outside, but God looks directly into the soul. He sees the battles you never talk about. He sees the disappointment you hide from others. He sees how hard you try to stay strong even when your heart feels weak. There are moments when people around you may misunderstand your silence, but God understands every emotion you cannot explain with words. Sometimes the hardest pain to carry is the pain nobody recognizes. There are individuals who continue helping others while secretly struggling themselves. They encourage everyone around them while privately feeling discouraged. They pray for others while quietly wondering when their own breakthrough will come. And because they appear strong, people assume they do not need support. But God knows the truth. God sees the tears that fall late at night when nobody is around. He sees the heartbreak hidden behind laughter. He hears the prayers spoken in weakness, frustration, and exhaustion. Even when words cannot fully express the depth of the pain, heaven still understands. There are seasons in life when people feel forgotten. They wonder if their prayers are reaching God at all. They wonder if heaven notices their suffering. They look around and see others smiling, succeeding, and moving forward while they remain stuck in emotional pain. In those moments, the enemy whispers dangerous lies. God does not care. God has abandoned you. Your pain does not matter. But the enemy is a liar. God has never ignored a broken heart. He has never turned away from sincere tears. The world may overlook your pain, but God never does. Human beings may fail to understand what you are carrying, but H even sees the full weight of your struggle. Sometimes people only notice visible success, but God notices hidden endurance. He sees every moment you wanted to quit but kept going anyway. He sees every prayer you whispered through tears. He sees every battle you fought silently inside your mind. Even when nobody applauds your strength, God sees your perseverance. There are people listening who feel emotionally drained because life has become heavier than they expected. Hurtful words damaged their confidence. Betrayal weakened their trust. Delays created frustration, and disappointment slowly stole their peace. They keep asking God, why is this season so painful? The truth is that pain often isolates people emotionally. When someone hurts deeply enough, they stop explaining their feelings because they believe nobody will understand. They carry burdens privately. They smile publicly while crying internally. But isolation does not hide your pain from God. In fact, some of the deepest encounters with God happen in lonely seasons. Many biblical figures experienced moments where they felt overwhelmed, rejected, or emotionally broken. Yet God remained near to them in their weakness. God specializes in meeting people in difficult places. He enters dark moments with healing, comfort, and strength. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they must appear strong all the time. They think weakness disappoints God, but God is not asking for performance. He desires honesty. He already knows the emotions hidden inside you. He knows when your faith feels tired. He knows when disappointment has wounded your heart. And he invites you to bring every broken piece to him instead of pretending everything is fine. Sometimes people cry because of rejection. Sometimes they cry because of failure. Sometimes they cry because life did not unfold the way they hoped. And sometimes they cry simply because they are exhausted from carrying too much for too long. But every tear matters to God. Not one moment of suffering escapes his attention. There are prayers you forgot about that God still remembers. There are tears you cried years ago that heaven never ignored. God sees beyond your current pain into the future he is still preparing for you. What feels like abandonment may actually be preparation. What feels like silence may actually be God strengthening your spirit in ways you cannot yet understand. You may feel weak today, but weakness does not push God away. It draws him closer. God moves toward broken hearts, not away from them. He comforts those who feel crushed by life. He strengthens those who are emotionally weary. And he reminds hurting people that their story is not over yet. Even when others fail to notice your pain, God notices. Even when nobody checks on you, God remains near. Even when your tears fall in silence, heaven still hears the cry of your heart. Many people believe weakness is something to hide. They spend their lives trying to appear strong, unshaken, and unaffected by pain. They fear that if others see their struggles, they will appear broken or incapable. So they build walls around their emotions. They smile when they are hurting. They stay silent when they are overwhelmed. They pretend to have peace while privately fighting fear, exhaustion, and discouragement. But weakness is not failure. Weakness is part of being human. Every person reaches moments where they feel emotionally drained, mentally tired, and spiritually exhausted. Even strong people have breaking points. Even faithful people experience seasons where they feel discouraged. The problem is not weakness itself. The problem begins when people believe weakness means God has abandoned them. Some people think they must be perfect before God can use them. They believe they must always have confidence, always have answers, and always remain emotionally strong. But throughout life, God often works most powerfully through people who understand their need for him. Weakness has a way of revealing what strength cannot. When people feel strong, they often depend on themselves. They trust their own ability, their own plans, and their own understanding. But weakness humbles the heart. Weakness reminds people that they cannot carry life alone. And sometimes God allows difficult seasons because he wants people to stop depending entirely on themselves and start depending more deeply on him. There are moments when pain strips away pride. Failure removes arrogance. Disappointment exposes emotional exhaustion. And suddenly a person realizes how fragile they truly are. Those moments can feel frightening because weakness makes people feel vulnerable. But vulnerability before God is not a curse. It is often the beginning of healing. Some of the strongest prayers are prayed in moments of weakness. Not polished prayers, not perfect words, just honest cries from a tired heart saying, God, I need you. Heaven responds to sincerity. God is not impressed by performance. He is moved by honesty. There are people listening right now who feel weak because life has wounded them repeatedly. Hurtful words drained their confidence. Betrayal shattered their trust. Delays weakened their hope. They tried to stay strong for so long that now they feel emotionally empty. They are tired of pretending everything is okay. But weakness does not disqualify you from God's purpose. In fact, some of the people God used most powerfully went through seasons of fear, insecurity, loneliness, and exhaustion. They questioned themselves. They struggled emotionally. They felt overwhelmed by the weight of life. Yet God still worked through them because his power is not dependent on human perfection. God's strength becomes most visible when human strength runs out. As long as people believe they can handle everything themselves, they often resist surrender. But weakness creates space for dependence on God. It teaches people to pray differently. It teaches them to trust differently. It teaches them to seek God not only for blessings, but for survival. Sometimes people feel ashamed of their emotional struggles. They think needing help means they are failing spiritually. But there is no shame in admitting you are tired. There is no shame in confessing you feel weak. Healing begins when honesty replaces pretending. The world teaches people to hide brokenness. God invites broken people closer. Weakness also changes the way people see others. Pain creates compassion. Those who have suffered deeply often become more understanding, more patient, and more merciful. They know what it feels like to struggle internally while appearing fine externally. They become gentler because life humbled them. Some people spend years asking God to remove every weakness from their life, but sometimes God uses weakness to shape character. Difficulty teaches endurance. Pain teaches humility. Struggles teach dependence on God. And through those difficult seas, people discover strength they never knew existed. Real strength is not pretending to be unbreakable. Real strength is continuing to trust God even when your heart feels tired. Real strength is praying while hurting, worshiping while discouraged, standing while emotionally shaken. Real strength is refusing to quit even when weakness whispers that you cannot continue. The enemy wants weakness to convince you that your future is over. He wants you to believe you are too damaged, too exhausted, and too broken for God to still use your life. But God does not abandon weak people. He strengthens them. Somebody today feels like they are barely holding themselves together. They feel mentally exhausted from carrying burdens nobody else sees. But your weakness is not the end of your story. God still works through tired hearts, wounded spirits, and imperfect people. Your current struggle does not define your final outcome. The pain may be real, but so is the strength God provides. And times the greatest testimony is not that you never became weak, but that God carried you through seasons where your own strength was no longer enough. One of the greatest battles people face is the battle of identity. Many individuals spend their entire lives trying to become what others expect them to be. They adjust their personality to gain acceptance. They hide their pain to avoid criticism. They constantly seek approval because deep inside they are afraid of rejection. And little by little, they begin allowing human opinions to decide how they see themselves. This is dangerous because people are inconsistent. Human opinions change constantly. One moment people praise you, and the next moment they criticize you. Some will celebrate you while you are useful to them, then abandon you when you are struggling. If your identity depends on the approval of people, your peace will always remain unstable. There are people today who feel emotionally broken because they built their confide. NCE on what others said about them. When people complimented them, they felt valuable. When people rejected them, they felt worthless. They gave human voices too much authority over their heart. But people do not have the right to define your worth. Only God does. The problem is that many individuals unknowingly carry labels spoken over them years ago. Somebody called them a failure, and now they fear trying again. Somebody mocked their dreams, and now they doubt their potential. Somebody rejected them, and now they struggle believing they are lovable. Hurtful words became internal beliefs. Over time, those negative opinions begin shaping decisions, relationships, and confidence. A person may look successful externally while secretly battling feelings of insecurity internally. They constantly compare themselves to others. They chase validation through achievements, popularity, or recognition because they are trying to fill an emptiness created by rejection. But no amount of human app. Provel can heal a soul disconnected from its true identity. There will always be critics in life. No matter how kind, talented, faithful, or hardworking you are, somebody will still misunderstand you. Somebody will still judge you unfairly. Somebody will still speak negatively about you. If you spend your life trying to satisfy every opinion around you, you will eventually become emotionally exhausted. You were never created to carry the burden of pleasing everybody. Many people are trapped because they are more aware of what people say about them than what God says about them. Human criticism became louder than divine truth. And when that happens, fear begins controlling decisions. People stop pursuing purpose because they fear rejection. They silence their voice because they fear judgment. They hide their gifts because they fear failure. The enemy understands how destructive insecurity can become. If he can convince you that you are insignificant, weak, or unworthy, he can keep you. Or from walking confidently into your purpose. He wants you trapped in comparison, fear, and self-doubt. He wants you constantly seeking approval from people who are incapable of giving you the peace only God can provide. Some individuals spend years trying to prove themselves to people who already decided not to appreciate them. They work harder, sacrifice more, and change themselves hoping to finally gain acceptance. But chasing validation from the wrong people will drain your spirit. Not everyone will understand your journey. Not everyone will recognize your value. And not everyone is supposed to. There are seasons when God intentionally separates people from constant human approval because he wants them to learn how to stand firmly in him alone. When applause disappears, true identity is revealed. When encouragement fades, you discover whether your confidence was built on God or on people's opinions. A person rooted in God may still feel hurt by criticism, but criticism no longer. Controls their identity. They understand that human words cannot cancel divine purpose. They stop allowing rejection to define their future. They stop shrinking themselves to fit inside other people's expectations. God did not create you to live as a prisoner of public opinion. Some people rejected you because they could not see what God placed inside you. Others misunderstood you because they judged your current condition instead of your future potential. But human limitation does not limit God's calling over your life. There are moments when you must silence the voices around you and remember who God says you are. You are not the labels people placed on you. You are not the mistakes from your past. You are not the insults spoken during painful seasons. Your identity is greater than your wounds. When a person truly understands their value in God, they stop begging for validation everywhere they go. They stop allowing criticism to destroy their peace. They stop comparing their journey to everyone else's success. They begin walking with quiet confidence because they know their worth is not determined by popularity, acceptance, or human applause. People may reject you and still be wrong about you. They may criticize you and still misunderstand your purpose. They may overlook your value and still not change the truth about who God created you to become. And when you finally stop letting human opinions define your worth, you begin experiencing a freedom that criticism can no longer steal. Some wounds are visible, but others are hidden deep inside the heart. Emotional pain caused by hurtful words can stay with a person for years. People may recover from physical struggles faster than they recover from words that damage their spirit. A harsh sentence spoken during a painful moment can echo in someone's mind long after everybody else has forgotten it. Many people are carrying silent heartbreak because somebody's words convinced them they were unworthy, unloved, or incapable. But no matter how deep the wound is, God is still able to heal what people damaged. There are individuals who learned how to survive with brokenness instead of seeking healing. They function daily while secretly carrying emotional scars. They smile publicly while privately battling insecurity, fear, and pain. Some became so used to being hurt that they stopped expecting peace. They accepted sadness as normal because disappointment became familiar. But God did not create people to live permanently wounded. Healing is part of God's nature. He restores broken hearts, renews weary minds, and strengthens damaged spirits. Even when people feel emotionally shattered, heaven still specializes in restoration. God can heal pain that medicine cannot reach. He can restore confidence destroyed by years of criticism. He can bring peace to minds exhausted by anxiety and emotional suffering. Many people believe healing means forgetting what happened, but healing is not pretending the pain never existed. Healing is reaching a place where the wound no longer controls your identity, emotions, and future. The memory may remain, but the pain loses its power. Some people are still emotionally trapped by words spoken over them many years ago. They hear those voices every time they try to move forward. Every new opportunity reminds them of old criticism. Every challenge awakens fear because deep inside they still believe the lies spoken against them. The enemy loves when wounded people remain trapped in bitterness and insecurity. He wants pain to become permanent. He wants disappointment to convince people they will never recover. But God's power is greater than the damage caused by human cruelty. There are moments when healing begins simply by bringing hidden pain honestly before God. Many people hide emotional wounds because they fear appearing weak. They bury hurt deep inside while continuing to function externally. But hidden wounds often grow heavier over time. God never intended for people to carry emotional pain alone. Healing requires honesty. It requires admitting, God, this hurt me deeply. It requires surrendering bitterness instead of feeding it. Some people continue replaying painful moments so often that they unknowingly keep reopening the wound. They stay connected emotionally to the pain because they never allowed God to heal it completely. Forgiveness is also part of healing, even though it is difficult. Forgiveness does not mean what happened was acceptable. It does not excuse cruelty or betrayal. But unforgiveness keeps pain alive inside the heart. Bitterness slowly poisons peace, joy, and emotional freedom. Sometimes people who hurt you continue controlling your life emotionally because you never release the wound to God. Healing also takes time. Some people become discouraged because they are not emotionally restored immediately. They think if they still feel pain occasionally, then healing is not happening. But restoration is often a process. God heals layer by layer, moment by moment. Little by little, he rebuilds confidence, restores peace, and renews strength. There are individuals listening today who feel emotionally exhausted because they spent years believing negative words spoken about them. They were told they were not smart enough, attractive enough, strong enough, or valuable enough. Those lies became part of their identity. But God's truth is greater than human insults. People may have spoken from anger, jealousy, insecurity, or ignorance. But their words do not define your destiny. God sees beyond your wounds. He sees who you can become after healing. Some of the strongest people are individuals who survived painful seasons that almost destroyed them emotionally. Their scars became reminders not only of pain, but also of God's faithfulness. Sometimes healing happens quietly. A person who once cried every night suddenly begins finding peace again. A person who once lived in fear begins regaining confidence. A heart once filled with bitterness slowly learns how to trust God again. Healing does not always happen loudly, but transformation still occurs. The enemy wants wounded people to isolate themselves permanently. He wants them believing nobody understands their pain. But God often sends encouragement, wisdom, prayer, and support through others to help restore broken hearts. Healing grows where honesty and grace are present. No wound is too deep for God's power. No brokenness is beyond his restoration. Even if people shattered your confidence with cruel words, God can rebuild what was damaged. Even if rejection weakened your spirit, God can restore your identity. Even if betrayal left emotional scars, God can still bring peace back into your life. The pain may have changed you, but it does not have to destroy you. God is still able to take wounded